All right, so you know how like companies love to brag about their tech being unbreakable and unhackable,
Yeah.
but history kind of shows us that uh, never really lasts.
Right.
Today, we're going to kind of unpack a classic example of this, the PlayStation 3.
Okay.
Think back to 2006 when it launched.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't a gamer, it was a big deal.
It really was huge.
It
Then,
pushed the boundaries of what gaming and home entertainment could be.
for sure.
So we found this really cool article from XDA developers.
Okay.
They're known for their deep dives into tech, especially in the mobile and gaming world.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to explore how the PS3 went from this super secure fortress
Yeah.
to like a haven for homebrew and modifications.
Wow.
Get this, a broken promise plays a big part in all of this.
Interesting.
Are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely, I am.
All right, so to really grasp this, we need to rewind back to the PlayStation 2 era.
Okay.
What can you tell us about the security issues Sony faced back then?
Well, imagine this. You spend years, pouring your heart and soul into developing a game,
Right.
and then almost immediately after it's released, it's widely pirated.
Oh, no.
That was the reality for a lot of developers during the PS2 era.
No.
The PS2 was just notoriously easy to crack,
Oh, wow.
and that led to some massive financial losses for Sony and the gaming industry as a whole.
Yeah, that's a nightmare for a game developer.
Absolutely.
I bet Sony was really keen to avoid repeating that with the PS3.
Oh, yeah. They were determined to not let that happen again.
Right.
They went all out on security with the PS3.
Right.
They introduced something called a hypervisor.
Hypervisor.
Yeah. So picture this, okay?
Okay.
It's like this super strict bouncer guarding the entrance to your console,
Uh-huh.
and it meticulously checks the ID of any code that tries to get in.
Interesting.
Only code with Sony's express approval gets past this bouncer.
Wow.
They also implemented encrypted storage signed executables, a really secure Blu-ray drive.
They really went all out.
It was clear they were determined to make the PS3 like an impenetrable fortress.
And it seems like for a while they did.
Yeah.
Right? Like think about the Xbox 360.
Right.
It also had some beefed up security, but it was cracked within a year.
Yeah. Right.
The PS3 held strong for much longer.
Much longer.
But then things took a really interesting turn.
Okay.
So you remember the article mentioned OtherOS?
Yes.
This wasn't just some hidden feature, it was a selling point.
That's right.
Can you imagine turning your PS3 into a fully functional Linux computer?
I mean, the possibilities would have been endless.
Right. What would you have used that for?
Oh, man, so many things. Development testing, even just everyday computing.
It would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And here's where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
The presence of OtherOS might have actually contributed to the PS3's initial security success.
Really?
It's like giving tinkerers a designated playground, a safe space to experiment without messing with the core system.
That makes sense.
So we have this super secure console,
Yeah.
maybe even more secure because of OtherOS,
Uh-huh.
and then Sony decides to just pull the plug.
What?
The PS3 Slim comes out,
Yeah.
no OtherOS. Then a software update removes it completely for all PS3 users.
Wow.
No explanation given initially.
So why would they do that?
Why do you think Sony would make such a drastic move?
Well, the article suggests a couple possibilities.
Okay.
Maybe Sony genuinely thought that OtherOS was a security risk,
Okay.
like a backdoor for hackers.
Okay.
Or maybe they had commercial concerns,
Right.
They didn't want people using the PS3 as like a cheap Linux computer.
Right, competing with their other products.
Exactly.
Whatever the reason, it backfired spectacularly.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And it even landed them in legal trouble.
Oh, right, the lawsuit.
Yeah, Sony had to pay out to PS3 owners because they took away a feature that was advertised.
Wow.
This is a pretty big deal. In the tech world, companies rarely back down like that.
They really don't.
It shows you how companies can't just yank away features we paid for, even in the name of security.
For sure.
It reminds us that we have rights as consumers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's the real kicker.
Okay.
Trying to tighten security by removing OtherOS seems to have motivated hackers
You're
to
kidding.
target the PS3 even more.
Like it was a challenge.
Yeah, like throwing down a gauntlet.
Wow.
So let's get into how the PS3 was actually cracked.
Okay.
The article mentions a USB exploit, and honestly, it sounds surprisingly simple.
Really?
They tricked the PS3 into thinking a USB hub had been plugged in,
Okay.
which allowed them to sneak in malicious code and access the console's recovery mode.
Huh.
It makes you wonder what other simple vulnerabilities are out there in the tech we use every day.
It's kind of scary to think about.
Right. But
Yeah.
the real downfall of the PS3's security was a huge blunder on Sony's part when it came to encryption.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
So there's this hacker group called Failverflow.
What a name.
Right. They revealed Sony's blunder during a presentation.
Okay.
Basically, Sony used the same encryption key for every PS3.
You're kidding me?
It's like using the same key for every lock in your house.
It's unbelievable.
One key unlocks all.
Wow.
This mistake gave hackers a master key to the PS3's whole security system.
That's a major oversight.
So from a security standpoint, it seems like a series of unfortunate events and some oversights led to the downfall.
Right.
But it's worth noting that it did hold out for a long time compared to its rivals.
Absolutely. It was really unprecedented at the time.
And here's the interesting thing today. The PS3 is a haven for homebrew enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Because of those cracks in its armor.
Wow.
It's gone from being totally locked down to wide open for people who want to tinker.
It's come full circle.
Makes you wonder, would Sony have been better off keeping OtherOS? Would it have prevented the hack or just delayed the inevitable?
That's a great question.
It makes you think about how much control companies should have over our devices.
Yeah, how much is too much?
It's something to think about, especially as our devices get more and more integrated into our lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is something to think about.
What if they had been more transparent about it?
Right.
Like maybe offered a different solution or something.
Yeah, maybe if they had communicated better, things could have been different.
Right? Calm things down a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe even prevented the hack.
It's possible.
Imagine if they had worked with the homebrew community
Oh, wow.
to find a way to let people tinker, but without compromising the whole system.
Collaboration can be really powerful.
For sure, but, security's always changing.
That's true.
There will always be people trying to break through the restrictions.
Absolutely. Some harmless, some not so much.
Right. So speaking of that, the article talks about the PS4
Okay.
and its own security issues,
Uh-huh.
though not as dramatic as the PS3.
Right.
So what can you tell us about that?
Well, it seems like Sony applied the lessons they learned, at least partly.
Okay.
With the PS4, their security strategy evolved.
So did they finally ditch that one key unlocks all approach?
Exactly. They brought in stronger encryption, layered their security.
Makes it a lot harder to break in.
Right.
But it wasn't completely unhackable, right?
Unfortunately, no system is.
Right.
The PS4 did stay relatively secure for a while longer than the PS3.
Okay.
But hackers are persistent.
Oh, yeah, they are.
They're always looking for new ways in.
Whether it's for fame or profit or just the challenge.
All of the above.
So as we move into the PS5 era, do you think Sony's finally ahead of the game?
It's hard to say for sure. It's still early in its life cycle.
Right.
But initial signs look good. They've incorporated some really advanced hardware and software safeguards.
So it's much tougher to hack.
Much tougher.
But, technology changes.
Absolutely.
So do the ways to exploit it.
It's an ongoing evolution.
It really makes you wonder what the future holds for console security.
For sure.
Like with cloud gaming and streaming services becoming more popular,
Right.
will we even have physical consoles to hack in the future?
That's a really interesting question.
Right.
It leads to some really big changes for gaming and entertainment.
Like what kind of changes?
Well, as we move towards cloud-based systems, security shifts.
How so?
It becomes less about protecting the physical hardware
Okay.
and more about protecting the data and the integrity of online platforms.
So it's not about someone physically breaking into your console.
Right.
It's about preventing hackers from stealing your data or disrupting the whole gaming ecosystem.
Exactly. Cybersecurity on a much larger scale.
Wow.
It's not just individual devices anymore. It's entire networks, servers, huge amounts of data.
And we've seen how damaging cyber attacks can be.
Oh, absolutely.
At businesses, governments, even critical infrastructure.
It can be devastating.
Imagine a major gaming platform like PlayStation Network or Xbox Live getting hacked.
Oh, it would be chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah, the potential for damage is huge.
So companies like Sony and Microsoft have to invest heavily in cybersecurity.
They have no choice. They need to protect their platforms and their users.
Sounds like the future of gaming security is all about trust.
Yeah, we have to trust these companies to keep our data safe.
And to provide a stable online gaming experience.
It's crucial.
But it's not just blind faith, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
We need to be informed.
Absolutely.
Hold these companies accountable.
We have to demand transparency, ask tough questions, be smart about protecting our own data.
Speaking of data, I can't help but think about the ethical side of all of this.
Okay.
As gaming gets more connected and personalized,
Yeah.
these companies are gathering tons of data on us.
That's true. Our playing habits, preferences,
Yeah.
even our social interactions.
That's a lot of data.
It is, and it raises some serious questions
Like what?
about data privacy, ownership, and control.
Right, like who actually owns our gaming data?
Exactly.
How is it being used?
Right. What rights do we have to access it, delete it, control how it's shared?
These are some big questions.
They are, and they go way beyond gaming.
This is about our digital identity and autonomy.
Absolutely. These are conversations we need to have now as we shape the future of technology.
Well said. So, from a story about a console hack, we've wandered into a much bigger discussion
We have. It's fascinating how these things connect.
about the future of gaming security and ethics in a connected world.
It's amazing where these deep dives can take you.
Okay, let's take a quick break to gather our thoughts, and when we come back,
Okay.
we'll wrap up our PS3 security saga deep dive with some final reflections.
Sounds good.
Stay with us.
And we're back.
Wow, that last part really got me thinking.
Me too.
It's amazing how interconnected all these topics are, from USB exploits to data collection.
It really is. Yeah, it just shows how important critical thinking is these days.
For sure, especially with tech becoming more and more a part of our lives.
Right. We can't just accept things passively.
We have to understand the risks, the implications.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up our PS3 security saga deep dive,
Okay.
what are some key takeaways you think our listeners should remember?
Well, first off, this whole story just reinforces the fact that nothing's unhackable.
Right.
Like it's an ongoing process. It's a back and forth between the people building defenses and the ones trying to break them down.
It's an endless arms race,
Exactly.
constantly evolving.
And it's not just consoles either.
Right. Our phones, computers, cars,
It's everything.
they're all potential targets.
So we have to be aware of the risks. Take precautions.
Like strong passwords.
Exactly. Keep your software updated.
Be careful about what links you click.
All the basic stuff, but it can make a huge difference.
So another takeaway for me is how important transparency and communication is from companies.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Sony's decision to remove OtherOS without explaining why,
Right.
it really backfired.
It did.
It damaged trust, fueled anger, and it might have even motivated the hackers even more.
It's a lesson a lot of companies could learn from, not just in tech.
Right. Being open and honest with your customers builds trust.
Especially when it comes to their data.
Yes, exactly. So the last takeaway for me is that trying to control things too tightly can backfire.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Sony thought they were increasing security by removing OtherOS, but it might have just made it more enticing for hackers.
It's like that forbidden fruit thing.
Exactly.
Sometimes a little freedom and flexibility can actually make things more secure.
By giving people a legitimate outlet for their curiosity.
Right.
So what's the final thought-provoking idea we can leave our listener with today?
Well, we talked about the technical stuff and the ethical stuff,
Right.
but I think we should also consider the human element.
Okay.
At its core, hacking is often driven by curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
the desire to understand how things work, to push boundaries.
So instead of seeing hackers as just bad guys, maybe we should also see them as problem solvers.
Yeah, innovators.
People who are pushing for more freedom and transparency.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Sure.
But the more we understand the motivations behind hacking, the better equipped we are to have a real conversation about it.
Well said. That wraps up our deep dive into the PS3 security saga.
That was a good one.
We covered a lot of ground today, from technical stuff to ethical dilemmas.
Yeah, we did.
Hopefully you learned something new
I know I did.
and gained a new perspective on the world of tech and security.
It's always changing.
It is. So keep the conversation going. Do your own research.
Stay curious.
And until next time, stay safe out there in the digital world.